Learning to phrase over chords is a fundamental skill you need for improvising. In many jazz standards, chords change quite frequently, making this task quite difficult. For me, this can lead to feeling overwhelmed by the sheer amount of chords and just feeling like they're all passing you by before you have a chance to say anything, and just feeling getting lost in the sense of trying to create phrases but just way too much happening. If this is a problem you can relate to, this is something you feel you need to work on, then I think it's about what standards you work on to help you with this. It's being smart about what repertoire you pick. And I think a really fantastic place to work on your phrasing is the A section of the wonderful jazz standard Caravan. Now, I covered the chords and the harmony on my last lesson. I'll leave a link in the description to that. And here's that A section on the screen. And as you can see, 16 bars, 2 chords. Now, there's other ways the chords can be played. They can be made more elaborate. You can have a bit more movement in there. But just very simply, it can be that and it will work fine. Let me put an A section of a couple other jazz standards on the screen. Here you go. Here's a few. Here's 3. Look how much busier these are. Look how many chords there are. How much, that's going to require from you in terms of your knowledge of harmony, your chord tones or scales, however you're thinking. Whereas with this, we just need to worry about playing C7 into F minor. And as great as it is to be able to play over a whole standard, I sometimes think it's better just to focus on playing one chord into another and making sure you can do that well, really well. And that whole A section, you've got 12 bars of C7, really ripe for developing call and response ideas, building on the previous ideas, how the phrase you play opens up the door to the next phrase and so on, like a conversation. We have that 12 bars and it's all about the goal of getting to F minor there for those last 4 bars. So it's kind of this whole sense of tension, 12 bars, resolve when we get to F minor. Now, I've written some sample lines that illustrate what I think are some things you want to think about when trying to create phrases. But first off, let's just briefly think about what makes a good phrase, and leave me a comment on what you think about phrasing, how you understand it and what you think makes a good jazz phrase. Because for me, the following things are important in phrasing. We want things like call and response to be used. So that ideas follow on from each other. One idea is responded to by another, and so on. We obviously want some sort of variation. We want the phrases to fit the harmony of the chords, so that there's this nice link between what you're playing, the phrases you're playing, and the harmonic chord structure. And for me, the phrases want to follow the momentum of where the chords want to go also. Phrasing for me is also about space. You can have very sparse, big gaps between phrases, lots of rests. You can have phrases which are very busy with lots of notes with fast rhythms, so they're going to be more tense. You can have short phrases, you can have long phrases, you can have phrases which go up, phrases which go down, phrases which go up and then down. So here's my first example with call and response phrasing. In this second one, we're going to play with this idea of building up to more intense rhythm. So start with long sustained notes. So it's quite a lot of sense, a bit of a sense more of space in the respect that I'm not playing as much. And then we're going to build up the ideas until we release the tension on the F minor. And in his third example, I leave a lot more space, a lot more rests, and build tension with a very basic phrasing technique, repetition, just repeating an idea, which creates tension in itself. Hopefully you can hear that Caravan is a great testing ground for working on your phrasing. The luxury of having 12 bars over one chord and then 4 bars of one chord is quite rare in a jazz standard, so plenty of time to develop ideas and develop that idea of your next idea can be a response and a development of the previous one. It doesn't always have to be idea. It can be idea, development of that idea. I like to do things in threes, maybe develop it a final time and then move on to something else. Phrasing is a massive topic, and something you definitely want to do is listen to plenty of versions. See how other soloists have treated this A section, how they've phrased it, how they've played with things like repetition, call and response, space, sustained notes, building tension, releasing tension. often we think of imitating our favourite jazz artists, our favourite jazz guitar players or trumpet players, saxophonists. But I think one thing that is easier to do than to, say, copy specific ideas is to copy the sense of structure. And that can be as simple as, oh, okay, they start with long sustained notes at the start, and then the rhythm builds up and then keeps building up until the F minor, and then it's a bit more space again. And that can be just following a basic structure, a bit like how like a rock guitar solo might start, say around the fret 5-7 mark and finish with screaming bends at fret 20. That's just like start low, finish high up on the fretboard. And you can take mentalities like that into your jazz soloing too. It doesn't always have to be about the harmonic content. If the harmonic content you're working with isn't paired with this sort of thinking about phrasing, then your soloing's not going to sound like the language of jazz. It's going to sound like just practicing ideas. It has to come together in some sort of cohesive story. If you're new here, my name's Andy, Jazz Guitar Lessons every Wednesday and Saturday. Thank you for checking out this video. If you gained value from this video, please hit that like button. It really helps boost the channel. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. Jazz Guitar Lessons twice a week. Until next time, you take care.